This is a continuation of All Quiet on the Western Front by E.M. Remarque, comprising the second part of Chapter 10. I wake up during the night. Krop is restless too. The train rides easily over the rails. I cannot realize it all yet. A bed, a train, home. "Albert," I whisper. "Do you know where the latrine is?" "The door is on the right, I think." "I'm going to have a look." It is dark. I grope for the edge of the bed and cautiously try to slide down, but my foot finds no support. I begin to slip. The plaster leg is no help, and with a crash I lie on the floor. "Damn!" I say. "Have you bumped yourself?" asks Krop. "You could hear that well enough for yourself," I growl. "My head." A door opens at the rear of the car. The sister comes with a light and looks at me. He has fallen out of bed. She feels my pulse and smooths my forehead. "You haven't any fever, though." "No," I agree. "Have you been dreaming then?" she asks. "Perhaps," I evade. The interrogation starts again. She looks at me with her clear eyes, and the more wonderful and sweet she is, the less am I able to tell her what I want. I am lifted up into bed again. That will be all right. As soon as she goes, I must try to climb down again. If she were an old woman, it might be easier to say what a man wants. But she is so very young. At the most 25, it can't be done. I cannot possibly tell her. Then Albert comes to my rescue. He is not bashful. It makes no difference to him who is upset. He calls to the sister. She turns round. "Sister," he wants, but no more does Albert know how to express it modestly and decently. Out there we say it in a single word. But here, to such a lady. All at once he remembers his school days and finishes hastily. "He wants to leave the room, sister." "Ah," says the sister, "but he shouldn't climb out of his bed with plaster bandage." "What do you want then?" she says, turning to me. I am in mortal terror at this turn, for I haven't any idea what the things are called professionally. She comes to my help. "Little or big?" Shocking business. I sweat like a pig and say shyly, "Well, only quite a little one." At any rate, it produces the effect. I get a bottle. After a few hours I am no longer the only one, and by morning we are quite accustomed to it and ask for what we want without any false modesty. The train travels slowly. Sometimes it halts, and the dead are unloaded. It halts often. Albert is feverish. I don't feel too bad. I have some pain, but the worst of it is that apparently there are still lice under the plaster bandage. They itch terribly, and I cannot scratch myself. We sleep through the days. The country glides quietly past the window. The third night we reach Herbestal. I hear from the sister that Albert is to be put off at the next station because of his fever. "How far does the train go?" I ask. "To Cologne." "Albert," I say, "we stick together. You see." On the sister's next round I hold my breath and press it up into my head. My face swells and turns red. She stops. "Are you in pain?" "Yes," I groan, "all of a sudden." She gives me a thermometer and goes on. I would not have been under Kat's tuition if I did not know what to do now. These army thermometers are not made for old soldiers. All one has to do is to drive the quicksilver up, and then it stays without falling again. I stick the thermometer under my arm at a slant and flip it steadily with my forefinger. Then I give it a shake. I send it up to 100.2. But that is not enough. A match held cautiously near to it brings it up to 101.6. As the sister comes back, I blow myself out, breathe in short gasps, goggle at her with vacant eyes, toss about restlessly, and mutter in a whisper, "I can't bear it any longer." She notes me down on a slip of paper. I know perfectly well my plaster bandage will not be reopened if it can be avoided. Albert and I are put off together. We are in the same room in a Catholic hospital. That is a piece of luck. The Catholic infirmaries are noted for their good treatment and good food. The hospital has been filled up from our train. There are a great many bed cases amongst them. We do not get examined today because there are too few surgeons. The flat trolleys with the rubber wheels pass continually along the corridor, and always with someone stretched at full length upon them. A damnable position. Stretched out full length like that. The only time it is good is when one is asleep. The night is very disturbed. No one can sleep. Toward morning we doze a little. I wake up just as it grows light. The doors stand open and one hears voices from the corridor. The others wake up too. One fellow who has been there a couple of days already explains it to us. Up here in the corridor every morning, the sisters say prayers. They call it morning devotion. And so that you can get your share, they leave the door open. No doubt it is well meant, but it gives us aches in our heads and bones. Such an absurdity, I say, just when a man dropped off to sleep. All the light cases are up here, that's why they do it here, he replies. Albert groans. I get furious and call out, "Be quiet out there." A minute later, a sister appears. In her black and white dress, she looks like a beautiful tea cozy. "Shut the door, will you, sister?" says someone. "We are saying prayers, that is why the door is open," she responds. "But we want to go on sleeping." Prayer is better than sleeping. She stands there and smiles innocently. And it is 7 o'clock already. Albert groans again. "Shut the door," I snort. She is quite disconcerted. Apparently she cannot understand. "But we are saying prayers for you too." "Shut the door anyway." She disappears, leaving the door open. The intoning of the litany proceeds. I feel savage and say, "I'm going to count up to 3. If it doesn't stop before then, I'll let something fly." "Me too," says another. I count up to 5. Then I take hold of a bottle, aim, and heave it through the door into the corridor. It smashes into 1,000 pieces. The praying stops. A swarm of sisters appear and reproach us in concert. "Shut the door!" we yell. They withdraw. The little one who came first is the last to go. "Heathen!" she chirps, but shuts the door all the same. We have won. At noon, the hospital inspector arrives and abuses us. He threatens us with clink and all the rest of it. But a hospital inspector is just the same as a commissariat inspector, or anyone else who wears a long sword and shoulder straps, but is really a clerk, and is never considered even by a recruit as a real officer. So we let him talk. What can they do to us, anyway? "Who threw the bottle?" he asks. Before I can think whether I should report myself, someone says, "I did." A man with a bristling beard sits up. Everyone is excited. Why should he report himself? "You?" "Yes. I was annoyed because we were waked up unnecessarily and lost my senses so that I did not know what I was doing." He talks like a book. "What is your name?" "Reinforcement Reservist Josef Hamacher." The inspector departs. We are all curious. "But why did you say you did it? It wasn't you at all." He grins. "That doesn't matter. I have a shooting license." Then of course we all understand. Whoever has a shooting license can do just whatever he pleases. "Yes," he explains. "I got a crack in the head, and they presented me with a certificate to say that I was periodically not responsible for my actions. Ever since then I've had a grand time. No one dares to annoy me, and nobody does anything to me. I reported myself because the shot amused me. If they open the door again tomorrow, we will pitch another." We are overjoyed. With Josef Hamacher in our midst, we can now risk anything. Then come the soundless flat trolleys to take us away. The bandages are stuck fast. We bellow like steers. There are 8 men in our room. Peter, a curly black-haired fellow, has the worst injury, a severe lung wound. Franz Wachter, alongside him, has a shot in the arm which didn't look too bad at first. But the third night he calls out to us, telling us to ring. He thinks he has a hemorrhage. I ring loudly. The night sister does not come. We have been making rather heavy demands on her during the night, because we have all been freshly bandaged, and so have a good deal of pain. One wants his leg placed so, another so, a third wants water, a fourth wants her to shake his pillow. In the end, the buxom old body grumbled bad-temperedly and slammed the doors. Now, no doubt she thinks it is something of the same sort, and so she is not coming. We wait. Then Franz says, "Ring again." I do so. Still, she does not put in an appearance. In our wing, there is only one night sister. Perhaps she has something to do in one of the other rooms. "Franz, are you quite sure you are bleeding?" I ask. "Otherwise we shall be getting cursed again." "The bandage is wet. Can't anybody make a light?" "That cannot be done either. The switch is by the door and none of us can stand up." I hold my thumb against the button of the bell till it becomes numb. Perhaps the sister has fallen asleep. They certainly have a great deal to do and are all overworked day after day. And added to that is the everlasting praying. "Should we smash a bottle?" asks Joseph Hamaker of the shooting license. "She wouldn't hear that any more than the bell." At last the door opens. The old lady appears, mumbling. When she perceives Franz's trouble, she begins to bustle and says, "Why did not someone say I was wanted? We did ring, and none of us here can walk." He has been bleeding badly, and she binds him up. In the morning we look at his face. It has become sharp and yellow, whereas the evening before he looked almost healthy. Now a sister comes oftener. Sometimes there are Red Cross voluntary aid sisters. They are pleasant, but often rather unskilled. They frequently give us pain when remaking our beds, and then are so frightened that they hurt us still more. The nuns are more reliable. They know how they must take hold of us, but we would be better pleased if they were somewhat more cheerful. A few of them have real spirit. They are superb. There is no one but would do anything for Sister Libertine, this marvelous sister, who spreads good cheer through the whole wing even when she can only be seen in the distance. And there are others like her. We would go through fire for her. A man cannot really complain. Here he is treated by the nuns exactly like a civilian. And just to think of a garrison hospital gives one the creeps. Franz Wachter does not regain his strength. One day he is taken away and does not come back. Joseph Hamaker knows all about it. We shan't see him again. They have put him in the dead room. "What do you mean, dead room?" asks Kropp. "Well, dying room." "What is that, then?" "A little room at the corner of the building. Whoever is about to kick the bucket is put in there. There are 2 beds in it. It is generally called the dying room." "But what do they do that for?" "They don't have so much work to do afterwards. It is more convenient, too, because it lies right beside the lift to the mortuary. Perhaps they do it for the sake of the others also, so that no one in the ward dies in sympathy, and they can look after him better, too, if he is by himself." "But what about him?" Joseph shrugs his shoulders. "Usually he doesn't take much notice anymore." "Does everybody know about it, then?" "Anyone who has been here long enough knows, of course." In the afternoon, Franz Wachter's bed has a fresh occupant. A couple of days later, they take the new man away, too. Joseph makes a significant glance. We see many come and go. Often relatives sit by the beds and weep or talk softly and awkwardly. One old woman will not go away, but she cannot stay there the whole night through. The next morning she comes very early, but not early enough. For when she goes up to the bed, someone else is in it already. She has to go to the mortuary. The apples that she has brought with her, she gives to us. And then little Peter begins to get worse. His temperature chart looks bad, and one day the flat trolley stands beside his bed. "Where to?" he asks. "To the bandaging ward." He is lifted out, but the sister makes the mistake of removing his tunic from the hook and putting it on the trolley too, so that she should not have to make 2 journeys. Peter understands immediately and tries to roll off the trolley. "I'm stopping here!" They push him back. He cries out feebly with his shattered lung, "I won't go to the dying room!" "But we are going to the bandaging ward." "Then what do you want my tunic for?" He can speak no more. Hoarse, agitated, he whispers, "Stopping here." They do not answer but wheel him out. At the door he tries to raise himself up. His black curly head sways. His eyes are full of tears. "I will come back again. I will come back again," he cries. The door shuts. We are all excited, but we say nothing. At last, Joseph says, "Many a man has said that. Once a man is in there, he never comes through. I am operated on and vomit for 2 days. My bones will not grow together, so the surgeon's secretary says. Another fellow's have grown crooked. His are broken again. It is damnable. Among our new arrivals, there are 2 young soldiers with flat feet. The chief surgeon discovers them on his rounds and is overjoyed. "We'll soon put that right," he tells them. "We will just do a small operation, and then you will have perfectly sound feet. Enter them down, sister." As soon as he is gone, Joseph, who knows everything, warns them. "Don't you let him operate on you. That is a special scientific stunt of the old boy's. He goes absolutely crazy whenever he can get hold of anyone to do it on. He operates on you for flat feet, and there's no mistake, you don't have them anymore. You have club feet instead, and have to walk all the rest of your life on sticks. What should a man do then? Asks one of them. Say no. You are here to be cured of your wound, not your flat feet. Did you have any trouble with them in the field? No. Well, there you are. At present you can still walk, but if once the old boy gets you under the knife, you'll be cripples. What he wants is little dogs to experiment with, so the war is a glorious time for him, as it is for all the surgeons. You take a look down below at the staff. There are a dozen fellows hobbling around that he has operated on. A lot of them have been here all the time since 14 and 15. Not a single one of them can walk better than he could before. Almost all of them worse, and most only with plaster legs. Every 6 months he catches them again and breaks their bones afresh, and every time is going to be the successful one. You take my word. He won't dare to do it if you say no. "Ach, man," says one of the two wearily. "Better your feet than your brain box. There's no telling what you'll get if you go back out there again. They can do with me just as they please, so long as I get back home. Better to have a club foot than be dead." The other, a young fellow like ourselves, won't have it done. The next morning the old man has the two hauled up and lectures and jaws at them so long that in the end they consent. What else could they do? They are mere privates, and he is a big bug. They are brought back chloroformed and plastered. It is going badly with Albert. They have taken him and amputated his leg. The whole leg has been taken off from the thigh. Now he will hardly speak any more. Once he says he will shoot himself the first time he can get hold of his revolver again. A new convoy arrives. Our room gets 2 blind men. One of them is a very youthful musician. The sisters never have a knife with them when they feed him. He has already snatched one from a sister. But in spite of this caution, there is an incident. In the evening, while he is being fed, the sister is called away and leaves the plate with the fork on his table. He gropes for the fork, seizes it, and drives it with all his force against his heart. Then he snatches up a shoe and strikes with it against the handle as hard as he can. We call for help, and 3 men are necessary to take the fork away from him. The blunt prongs had already penetrated deep. He abuses us all night so that no one can go to sleep. In the morning he has lockjaw. Again beds are empty. Day after day goes by with pain and fear, groans and death gurgles. Even the death room is no use anymore. It is too small. Fellows die during the night in our room. They go even faster than the sisters can cope with them. But one day the door flies open, the flat trolley rolls in, and there on the stretcher, pale, thin, upright, and triumphant, with his shaggy head of curls, sits Peter. Sister Libertine, with beaming looks, pushes him over to his former bed. He is back from the dying room. We have long supposed him dead. He looks round. What do you say now? And Joseph has to admit that it is the first time he has ever known of such a thing. Gradually, a few of us are allowed to get up, and I am given crutches to hobble around on. But I do not make much use of them. I cannot bear Albert's gaze as I move about the room. His eyes always follow me with such a strange look. So I sometimes escape to the corridor. There I can move about more freely. On the next floor below are the abdominal and spine cases, head wounds and double amputations. On the right side of the wing are the jaw wounds, gas cases, nose, ear, and neck wounds. On the left, the blind and the lung wounds, pelvis wounds, wounds in the joints, wounds in the kidneys, wounds in the testicles, wounds in the intestines. Here a man realizes for the first time in how many places a man can get hit. 2 fellows die of tetanus. Their skin turns pale, their limbs stiffen. At last only their eyes live, stubbornly. Many of the wounded have their shattered limbs hanging free in the air from a gallows. Underneath the wound, a basin is placed into which drips the pus. Every 2 or 3 hours the vessel is emptied. Other men lie in stretching bandages with heavy weights hanging from the end of the bed. I see intestine wounds that are constantly full of excreta. The surgeon's clerk shows me X-ray photographs of completely smashed hip bones, knees, and shoulders. A man cannot realize that above such shattered bodies, there are still human faces in which life goes its daily round. And this is only one hospital, one single station. There are hundreds of thousands in Germany, hundreds of thousands in France, hundreds of thousands in Russia. How senseless is everything that can ever be written, done, or thought when such things are possible? It must be all lies and of no account when the culture of 1,000 years could not prevent this stream of blood being poured out. These torture chambers in their hundreds of thousands. A hospital alone shows what war is. I am young, I am 20 years old, yet I know nothing of life but despair, death, fear, and fatuous superficiality cast over an abyss of sorrow. I see how peoples are set against one another, and in silence, unknowingly, foolishly, obediently, innocently slay one another. I see that the keenest brains of the world invent weapons and words to make it yet more refined and enduring. And all men of my age, here and over there, throughout the whole world, see these things. All my generation is experiencing these things with me. What would our fathers do if we suddenly stood up and came before them and proffered our account? What do they expect of us, if a time ever comes when the war is over? Through the years our business has been killing. It was our first calling in life. Our knowledge of life is limited to death. What will happen afterwards, and what shall come out of us? The oldest man in our room is Lewandowski. He is 40 and has already lain 10 months in the hospital with a severe abdominal wound. Just in the last few weeks he has improved sufficiently to be able to hobble about doubled up. For some days past, he has been in great excitement. His wife has written to him from the little home in Poland where she lives, telling him that she has saved up enough money to pay for the fare and is coming to see him. She is already on the way and may arrive any day. Lewandowski has lost his appetite. He even gives away red cabbage and sausage after he has had a couple of mouthfuls. He goes round the room perpetually with the letter. Everyone has already read it a dozen times. The postmarks have been examined heaven knows how often. The address is hardly legible any longer for spots of grease and thumb marks. And in the end, what is sure to happen, happens. Lewandowski develops a fever and has to go back to bed. He has not seen his wife for 2 years. In the meantime, she has given birth to a child, whom she is bringing with her. But something else occupies Lewandowski's thoughts. He had hoped to get permission to go out when his old woman came. For obviously seeing is all very well, but when a man gets his wife again after such a long time, if at all possible, a man wants something else besides. Lewandowski has discussed it all with us at great length. In the army there are no secrets about such things. And what's more, nobody finds anything objectionable in it. Those of us who are already able to go out have told him of a couple of very good spots in the town, parks and squares, where he would not be disturbed. One of us even knows of a little room. But what is the use? There Lewandowski lies in bed with his troubles. Life holds no more joy for him if he has to forgo this affair. We console him and promise to get over the difficulty somehow or other. The next afternoon his wife appears, a tousled little woman with anxious, quick eyes like a bird, in a sort of black, crinkly mantilla with ribbons. Heaven knows where she inherited the thing. She murmurs something softly and stands shyly in the doorway. It terrifies her that there are 6 of us men present. "Well, Marya," says Lewandowski, and gulps dangerously with his Adam's apple, "you can come in all right, they won't hurt you." She goes round and proffers each of us her hand. Then she produces the child, which in the intervals has done something in its napkin. From a large handbag embroidered with beads, she takes out a clean one and makes the child fresh and presentable. This dispels her first embarrassment, and the two begin to talk. Lewandowski is very fidgety. Every now and then he squints across at us most unhappily with his round goggle eyes. The time is favorable. The doctor's visit is over. At the most, one of the sisters might come in. So one of us goes out to prospect. He comes back and nods. "Not a soul to be seen. Now's your chance, Johann. Set to." The two speak together in an undertone. The woman turns a little red and looks embarrassed. We grin good-naturedly and make pooh-poohing gestures. What does it matter? The devil take all conventions. They were made for other times. Here lies the carpenter Johann Lewandowski, a soldier shot to a cripple, and there is his wife. Who knows when he will see her again? He wants to have her, and he should have her. Good. 2 men stand at the door to forestall the sisters and keep them occupied if they chance to come along. They agree to stand guard for a quarter of an hour or thereabouts. Lewandowski can only lie on his side, so one of us props a couple of pillows against his side. Albert gets the child to hold. We all turn round a bit. The black mantilla disappears under the bedclothes. We make a great clatter and play scat noisily. All goes well. I hold a club solo with 4 jacks which nearly goes the round. In the process we almost forget Lewandowski. After a while the child begins to squall, although Albert, in desperation, rocks it to and fro. There is a bit of creaking and rustling, and as we look up casually, we see that the child has the bottle in its mouth, and is back again with its mother. The business is over. We now feel ourselves like one big family. The woman is happy, and Lewandowski lies there sweating and beaming. He unpacks the embroidered handbag, and some good sausages come to light. Lewandowski takes up the knife with a flourish and saws the meat into slices. With a handsome gesture he waves toward us, and the little woman goes from one to another and smiles at us and hands round the sausage. She now looks quite handsome. We call her Mother. She is pleased and shakes up our pillows for us. And after a few weeks I have to go each morning to the massage department. There my leg is harnessed up and made to move. The arm has healed long since. New convoys arrive from the line. The bandages are no longer made of cloth, but of white crepe paper. Rag bandages have become scarce at the front. Albert's stump heals well. The wound is almost closed. In a few weeks he should go off to an institute for artificial limbs. He continues not to talk much and is much more solemn than formerly. He often breaks off in his speech and stares in front of him. If he were not here with us, he would have shot himself long ago. But now he is over the worst of it, and he often looks on while we play scat. I get convalescent leave. My mother does not want to let me go away. She is feeble. It is all much worse than it was last time. Then I am recalled to my regiment and return once more to the line. Parting from my friend Albert Kropp was very hard, but a man gets used to that sort of thing in the army. This concludes the 14th part of 16 total of All Quiet on the Western Front by E.M. Remarque, produced by Best Audiobooks for free.